Hi, I'm Trevor Crow, and this is Keeping Connected. Today we are talking about modern relationships, and of course, one of the things is custody and divorce. And sitting next to me is Marilyn Chinitz. She has talked with us before, and you can click the links below because you can see some of our discussions on mediation and divorce. But today we're really going to focus on custody. And there's a lot happening out there today. And Marilyn, would you tell us about some of the major cases that you've been talking about or dealing with in your practice? Because it is important.
There's an interesting case that recently was decided, and it is timely because we are approaching the Olympics, and this involved Bode Miller, who had a relationship with a beautiful woman. She was in the military. They had a child. She got pregnant. They didn't have a child.
A brief affair. Very brief.
Well, it was a brief affair, and she was pregnant, and they were in California, and she decided after he said that the relationship was over, and he in fact sent her an email saying that you want to go forward with the child, this is your thing, not mine.
And he met somebody else apparently.
He did. And so she decided she had a great opportunity to attend school in New York and attend Columbia. So she moved to New York. He instituted an action, and the New York Family Court ultimately said that she absconded with their unborn child. After the child was born and she was living in New York with the child, raising the child, the family court judge directed her to return the child to Bode Miller.
Unbelievable. This has got to be very unusual.
Well, we thought we were back in the 1700s. It was so
Amazing.
incredible to hear a decision like that. Fortunately, the appellate division reversed him. The women's group went crazy because they said, how could you do that? A, we don't know if he's the father. We have since found out that he is the father. B, why couldn't a woman who's unmarried travel wherever she wants to go? So that was a very interesting custody case. Fortunately, it was corrected, and she is the custodial parent of the child, and Bode Miller has visitation. And with his very busy schedule, there's no way, I think at this point, that he would have been able to raise that child.
Although he has gotten married since. He actually got his wife pregnant who had a miscarriage, unfortunately. They are very interested in raising the son. And this is interesting. And from a therapist's perspective, each parent calls this child by a different name. I think one calls him Nate, the other one Sam. So to me, there's an immense amount of damage going on for this child. And both of these parents need to understand that their parents, there is one child, and they somehow have to make a working enough relationship, even though it started out in this really messy way, to figure out a way through it so this child is reared in a safe and, at least enough where he can develop an identity where he has his own name. I mean, for heaven's sake.
Parents can be very damaging. They can damage their
Horrifying.
kids terribly. And if they knew what they were doing, maybe they'd stop. But it's important for a therapist to get involved and to explain to the parent, you can't put your child in the middle of a conflict. I can give you an example that was just absolutely horrific, where a mother was insanely jealous that her husband was with another woman and directed the children to put a flash drive into the computer to download pictures so that she can feed back and get information about the relationship.
Criminal.
What a devastating thing to do. Or custody
many
cases
levels.
where you falsely accuse a parent of physical abuse or sexual abuse. And there have been cases where parents will go as far as calling the authorities, for example, ACS, to come in and do an investigation and have the child physically examined internally to establish that the child was sexually abused. Now, the risk
Terrible.
is huge, not only to the child, but ultimately you'll lose custody. So the best thing that people can do when it comes to custody cases and issues involving their children is to be with a therapist. Get the guidance from the therapist. Hear what your child is saying. Understand what they're saying. And you have to do everything you can to step on each other's toes to make sure that you stop the damage, because it's critical.
It's so critical, and you're absolutely right. And the custody can be incredibly tricky. And ultimately, what we want for the kid, all of us, including I think the court systems, every single one of us working in these places of divorce and custody battles, is the best thing for the child. And the best thing for the child is the parents are able to communicate well enough, at least on a business level, how to make that child safe and how to make the child feel they're loved and that they're the most important thing. And unfortunately, I believe some of these parents use the kids as a means to revenge, to hurt the other parent, to get back, to create more pain. And in fact, the people who most get damaged in that process is the child, not your ex. So I really try to talk to my clients about who really is hurting, what are you really doing with that emotion, how can you make sure that your child is safe throughout all of this. And trust me, I'm part of this too. I have kids, I'm divorced, and I have to be very careful about what I say. And so this is in real time for me as well. So
and
it's for all of
costly.
us.
It's very expensive to
very
litigate
expensive.
a custody case.
Mm-hmm.
Half the time, I would say the majority time, I can't imagine that parents can't decide what's right for their children.
And you
Regarding
need to,
health, God forbid your child is in an emergency situation in a
and
hospital.
they can't make a decision.
If you can't make a decision about what's right for your child.
Scary.
So I think that the lawyers, the therapists need to work together because that could be the tiebreaker. Everybody's entitled to their different opinion.
Right.
The question is, how do you reach a decision that's right for your child? Notwithstanding the different opinion, put that to rest.
Exactly.
Let the therapist come in and hear everybody, but there has to be an effective way to do that.
I absolutely agree. And I think one of the big things is this goes by so quickly. Our kids grow up and they go out of the house. Please, everybody, if you have kids and you're in the middle of a custody battle, if you're thinking about a divorce, put the kids first. Do not get them involved in the emotional back and forth. They are not your messengers. They should not be downloading pictures. They should not be going back to your ex-spouse in any way with any information, and they shouldn't be giving you any information, nor should you ask anything of them. They need to be children. They need to be protected from all the emotional ups and downs, and we can do this if we're caring, if we slow down, if we're not emotionally reactive to one another. I get it. It's really tough. I've personally been there, but we can do it, and we just have to put the kids as number one, our priority. So thank you for tuning in. This has been a really interesting conversation, and of course, we want to answer your questions. So if you have a question for myself or for Marilyn, please answer it in the box below, or you can follow us on Facebook. You can also subscribe to our channel, and you're important to us, so tell us what you think. We look forward to hearing from you.